I'd come to Barcelona on a whim, or so I told myself. A year-long sabbatical from my graphic design firm back in Seattle, chasing the ghosts of a life I'd outgrown. Divorces, dead-end flings, the kind of urban isolation that seeps into your bones like fog off the Puget Sound. Spain promised reinvention. Narrow alleys pulsing with flamenco echoes, markets brimming with saffron and sea salt, the endless blue of the Mediterranean whispering that maybe, just maybe, I could start over. But Jasper? He was my anchor, the fluffy golden retriever I'd adopted after my ex-husband bailed, leaving me with a lease and a lingering ache. He was supposed to be my uncomplicated love, the one who didn't demand explanations or anniversaries. Instead, he'd started unraveling right alongside me. Nights of pacing, sudden bursts of barking at shadows, his once bright eyes dulled by something I couldn't fix with treats or walks along the Ramblas. That's how I found Anastasia's clinic, tucked into the Gracia neighborhood like a secret. Pet Whisperer Saves Barcelona Strays. The local expat blog had raved, and desperate, I booked the appointment. Now, as she led us into her office, a sunlit room cluttered with chew toys, anatomical charts of canine brains, and shelves of dog-eared psychology texts, I felt exposed like Jasper's twitching ears were broadcasting my failures. "Tell me about him," she said, settling onto a woven rug with Jasper between us. Her voice was a low melody, laced with that faint American twang beneath her flawless Spanish. Born in Madrid to a Texan mother and a Catalan father, she'd later confess. At 36, Anastasia carried herself with the effortless grace of someone who'd bridged worlds. Caramel skin glowing under the afternoon light filtering through terracotta shutters, dark hair pulled into a loose braid that begged to be undone, brown eyes that seemed to see straight through fur and flesh to the raw nerves beneath. I hesitated, stroking Jasper's flank as he leaned into her touch like it was absolution. He's not himself. Since we moved here 3 months ago. The flights, the new smells, maybe it's separation anxiety? Or the fireworks during La Merce Festival. He won't eat, won't sleep without me glued to his side. My words tumbled out, laced with the exhaustion I'd been masking with endless cortados and midnight sketches in my rented flat overlooking the Sagrada Familia. Anastasia nodded, her fingers tracing lazy circles on Jasper's chest, eliciting a sigh from him that twisted something deep in my gut. "It's not just the move, Magnolia. Look at his eyes, they're telling a story of loss. Dogs mirror us, you know. What's weighing on you that he's carrying?" Her gaze lifted, steady and unflinching, and for the first time in years I felt seen, not as the thriving expat posting sun-drenched selfies, but as the woman fraying at the edges. I swallowed hard, the rain pattering against the window like impatient fingers. My marriage imploded last year. Left me with Jasper and a pile of regrets. Thought Spain would be a reset, but it's like he knows I'm faking it. The admission hung there, vulnerable and unpolished, but Anastasia didn't flinch. She smiled faintly, a curve of her full lips that lit her face like dawn over the Gothic quarter. "Then let's unpack it together. For him, and for you." She handed me a worn notebook, its pages filled with her neat script. Exercises for bonding, mindfulness walks through Park Güell, even prompts for journaling the unspoken griefs we both carried. As Jasper finally dozed off in her lap, his snores a soft rhythm, I realized this wasn't just therapy for him. It was the first crack in my carefully constructed solitude. Our sessions became ritual. Twice a week, I'd navigate the labyrinthine streets of Gracia, Jasper pulling me toward her door with uncharacteristic eagerness. Anastasia's approach was holistic, almost poetic. We trekked to the nearby hills, her leading Jasper on a long line while I trailed, notebook in hand. "Write what you feel when he hesitates," she'd instruct, her voice blending with the cicada's hum. One afternoon, as we paused under a canopy of cork oaks, she read aloud from my scribbles, a raw verse about the hollow echo of an empty bed, and her eyes misted. "You have a poet's heart, Magnolia, hidden under all that Seattle grit." I laughed it off, but heat bloomed in my cheeks. At 34, I'd long buried my queer curiosities under straight-laced expectations. Marriages to safe men, careers that demanded perfection. But Anastasia stirred something dormant. The way her laughter pealed like church bells during a sudden downpour, how she'd share stories of her own fractured path, coming out in a conservative Madrid family that loved her fiercely but feared for her future. "I chose animals because they don't judge," she said once, as we watched Jasper chase fireflies in a hidden plaza. They just love. And God, did Jasper love her. His anxieties melted session by session, naps without pacing, tail wags that lit up rooms. But it was me who lingered longer each time, nursing herbal teas in her office while she wrapped up charts. Conversations veered from canine behavior to life's cruelties. Her ex, a fellow vet who cheated with a colleague, leaving her to rebuild amid Barcelona's relentless beauty. My nomadic heart, forever chasing horizons that never quite healed. One evening, as the city's lights flickered on like stars fallen to earth, she brushed a curl from my forehead. Casual, accidental. And the air thickened with unspoken possibility. "Stay for dinner?" she asked, gesturing to a pot of paella simmering on her hot plate. "Jasper's earned it, and so have you." Her flat above the clinic was a cozy chaos. Exposed brick walls adorned with Polaroids of rescued strays, a balcony overlooking rooftops where geraniums spilled like crimson waterfalls. We ate cross-legged on the floor. Jasper sprawled between us, and talked until the wine bottle emptied. Her knee pressed against mine, warm and steady, and when she leaned in to refill my glass, our fingers tangled. Time suspended, the world narrowing to the pulse in her wrist, the faint scent of lavender on her skin. That night, as I walked home under a canopy of stars, Jasper trotting contentedly, I felt the slow unfurling of something terrifying and true. Love? No, not yet, but the seed planted in the fertile soil of her empathy, her unyielding kindness. Little did I know the roots would tangle with thorns I couldn't foresee. Weeks blurred into a rhythm that felt dangerously like home. Morning sketching logos for local wineries, afternoons with Anastasia, now blending therapy with tentative dates. Gelato strolls along the Passeig de Gracia, her hand slipping into mine as we dodged tourists. Sunset picnics in Montjuic where she'd read tarot cards for Jasper, declaring him the emperor of second chances. My designs flourished, infused with the vibrancy of her world. Curves echoing gaudy-esque whimsy, colors borrowed from the sea. And Jasper? He was reborn, bounding through life with a joy that mirrored my own quiet awakening. But cracks appeared subtly, like fissures in Carrara marble. Anastasia's phone would buzz during our walks, her face tightening as she silenced it. "Work," she'd mutter, but her eyes darted away. I didn't press. Trust was a fragile bloom, and I was still tending my own wilted parts. Yet doubt crept in, a whisper amid the laughter. Was this real or just another expat mirage? The turning point came on a crisp October morning, the air sharp with the promise of autumn. We'd planned a hike in the Calcerola Hills, Jasper off-leash for the first time, his golden coat shimmering in the dappled light. Anastasia arrived late, shadows under her eyes, her usual vibrancy dimmed. "Rough night," she admitted, accepting the thermos of coffee I'd brewed. As we crested a ridge overlooking the sprawling city, Barcelona's spires piercing the haze like defiant fingers, she broke. Not in sobs but in a quiet torrent of words. "My ex Sophia, she's back. Moved to the city for a job at the university vet school. Wants to talk." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she hurled a pebble into the underbrush. Jasper nosed her hand, whining softly, and I pulled her into a hug, her body rigid then yielding against mine. I thought I was over it, Magnolia. But seeing her, it rips open old wounds. I held her tighter, my heart a storm of protectiveness and fear. "You don't owe her anything. You're building something beautiful here with Jasper, with us." The S slipped out, raw and untested, and she pulled back, searching my face. In that moment, suspended between pine-scented air and the distant hum of traffic, she kissed me. Soft at first, tentative, a brush of lips tasting of salt and unspoken fears, then deepening, her hands framing my face as if I were the fragile one. The world tilted, Barcelona fading to a blur, leaving only the heat of her mouth, the way she sighed my name like a prayer. We broke apart breathless, foreheads pressed together, Jasper circling us with joyful leaps. "I'm falling for you," she whispered, and I echoed it back, the words a vow etched in the autumn light. For the first time, love didn't feel like loss, it felt like arrival. Winter descended on Barcelona like a velvet cloak, softening the edges of our budding romance. Christmas markets twinkled along the Born district, their stalls heavy with marzipan and mulled wine, and Anastasia and I wove through them hand in hand, Jasper decked in a ridiculous elf collar she'd fashioned from ribbon. "He's the star of the season," she teased, snapping a photo that captured his tongue-lolling grin, our shoulders brushing in the frame. My flat, once a sterile expat shell, now overflowed with her touches. A clay vase of wild thyme from the Montserrat trails, her spare sweater draped over the couch, the faint trace of her perfume lingering like a promise. Our love unfolded in stolen intimacies, tender and unhurried. Mornings tangled in her sheets, sunlight slanting through shutters as she traced the freckles across my nose, murmuring endearments in a Spanglish lilt. Afternoons at the clinic where I'd perch on her desk, sketching while she consulted with clients, her passion for the unspoken language of animals igniting a fire in me to create bolder, more emotive designs. Evenings on her balcony, feet entwined under a shared blanket, debating everything from Picasso's Blue Period to the ethics of urban strays. You make me believe in second acts, I told her one night, as fireworks from a distant festival painted the sky in bursts of gold. She smiled, that radiant curve that still unraveled me, and replied, "And you make me remember why I left Texas, for a world big enough for hearts like ours." Jasper thrived in this harmony, his old anxieties banished to memory. He'd curl at our feet during movie nights, oblivious to the way our fingers intertwined or how Anastasia's head would nestle against my shoulder during the quiet scenes. My work visa extension came through seamlessly, buoyed by a contract with a Catalan winery that adored my infused with passion labels. Life felt scripted by some benevolent hand, each day a brushstroke in a masterpiece of rediscovery. But Sophia's shadow loomed, persistent as the Mistral winds off the coast. Anastasia mentioned her in passing, a coffee for closure, a chance encounter at a veterinary conference, but her tension was palpable, coiling like smoke. I trusted her, or tried to. My history of betrayals made every evasion a splinter under my skin. "She's just a ghost," Anastasia assured me one rainy afternoon, as we sheltered in a cafe near the Boqueria market, steam rising from our churros. Her hand squeezed mine across the table, warm and sure. "You're my now, Magnolia. My everything." I wanted to believe her. God, how I did. But doubt is a sly thief, stealing sleep in the wee hours, whispering what-ifs into the dark. One evening, after a particularly grueling session with a traumatized rescue pup, Anastasia begged off our planned dinner. "Headache," she said, kissing my temple before vanishing into her flat. I wandered home alone, Jasper sensing my unease, pressing close as we climbed the stairs to my place. The silence amplified my fears, and in a moment of weakness, I scrolled through her clinic's social media. Innocent, I told myself, until a tagged photo stopped me cold. Anastasia and Sophia, arms linked at a holiday fundraiser, smiles bright as the string lights behind them. The caption, "Reunited for the pups. Old friends vet life." My stomach plummeted. It was nothing I rationalized, professional, platonic. But the image burrowed deep, festering. The next day, I confronted her gently over lunch at our favorite tapas spot in the Raval. Saw the photo. With Sophia. My voice was steady, but my fork trembled against the plate of patatas bravas. Anastasia's fork paused mid-air, her expression crumpling. "It was a work thing, amor." She cornered me. Said she missed our friendship, the life we built. I told her it's over. Her eyes pleaded, raw with the weight of half-truths. I nodded, forcing a smile, but the seed of suspicion took root, twisting toward the light. As January thawed into February's tentative blooms, the fissures widened. Anastasia grew distant, her texts delayed, her touches fleeting. Jasper picked up on it, reverting to old habits, pacing at night, eyeing doors with wary longing. I threw myself into work, pitching a series of murals for a Gracia gallery inspired by our hikes. Swirling vines of olive and gold, figures entwined against stormy skies. The curator raved, but success tasted hollow without her at my side. The betrayal shattered on a night thick with sirocco winds, the kind that carry Saharan dust and unrest. I'd planned a surprise. A private tour of the Picasso Museum after hours, secured through a design contact. Dressed in the emerald dress she loved, the one that hugged my curves like her arms once did. I waited on her doorstep, a bottle of Priorat in hand, Jasper at my feet with a fresh bandana. No answer. Texts went unread. Panic clawed up my throat as I circled the block, ending up at the clinic, its lights dim but for a glow from the back office. Through the frosted glass, silhouettes moved, two forms close, too close. My heart hammered as I pushed the door ajar. The bells jingle a trader's announcement. There they were. Anastasia and Sophia, locked in an embrace that blurred the line between comfort and craving. Sophia's hands on her waist, Anastasia's face buried in her neck, a murmur escaping that sounded perilously like, "I never stopped." Time fractured. "Anastasia." My voice was a ghost, thin and accusing. They sprang apart, Sophia's eyes widening in feigned surprise, Anastasia's face draining of color. "Magnolia, it's not," she stammered, reaching for me, but I recoiled, the wine bottle slipping from my grip to shatter on the tile, red pooling like spilled secrets. "Save it." The words tasted of ash. Jasper whined, pressing against my leg, but I couldn't move, rooted in the wreckage of trust. Sophia slipped out with a murmured apology, leaving us in the ruin. "She came to me broken," Anastasia pleaded, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. "Her practice is failing, she's alone. I was just listening." "Listening with your arms around her?" Fury surged, hot and unbidden. "I poured my soul into this, into us, and you let her slither back because what? Old habits die hard." My voice cracked, the dam breaking. I unloaded it all. The doubts I'd swallowed, the love I'd dared to nurture, the fear that I was always the interlude, never the endgame. Anastasia sank to her knees amid the glass shards, sobs racking her frame. "I love you, Magnolia." This terrified me, how deep it runs. Sophia's safe, familiar pain. You're the risk that could destroy me." Her confession hung raw, a mirror to my own vulnerabilities, but betrayal's sting drowned it out. I gathered Jasper's leash, turning for the door. "Then let it destroy you. I'm done being the fixer." The walk home was a blur of neon and nausea, rain mingling with tears on my face. Barcelona, once a canvas of possibility, now mocked me with its indifferent beauty. Fountains singing, lovers entwined under umbrellas. I curled on my couch that night, Jasper's head in my lap, his warmth the only anchor. Sleep came in fits, haunted by her eyes, her touch, the ache of what might have been. Dawn brought resolve, brittle but real. I canceled the museum tour, buried myself in sketches, dark, jagged lines evoking fractured hearts and mended leashes. Clients noticed the edge in my work, the raw humanity, and commissions poured in. But Anastasia's texts, apologies layered with pleas, chipped at my walls. "Let me explain. Please. For Jasper." I ignored them until one afternoon a package arrived. The notebook from our first session, filled now with her entries, pages of her fears, her love for me scrawled in frantic script. "You woke parts of me I thought buried. Forgive my cowardice." Temptation warred with pride. I met her at the cliffs of Costa Brava, a neutral ground where the sea crashed like unresolved symphonies. Jasper bounded ahead, oblivious, as we walked the windswept path. "I ended it with Sophia for good," she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Blocked her, changed my locks. But losing you, it's the real end of the world." I stopped, the ocean's roar echoing my turmoil. "Why her then? After everything?" Anastasia's gaze dropped to the waves below, then lifted, fierce. "Because I'm flawed, Magnolia. Scarred by years of hiding who I am. You make me brave, but bravery falters in the dark." She stepped closer, the space between us electric. "I choose you. Every fractured, beautiful piece." The confession cracked me open, tears blurring the horizon. I pulled her into the wind, our embrace fierce against the gale. Lips meeting in a kiss salted by sea and sorrow, a reclamation. Jasper barked approval, circling us as the sun dipped low, gilding the moment in fragile gold. Forgiveness wasn't erasure. It was choice repeated daily. Spring erupted across Catalonia like a held breath released, almond blossoms carpeting the hills in pink confetti, the air humming with renewal. Anastasia and I rebuilt tentatively, each day a deliberate step on the path we'd nearly lost. No grand gestures, just the quiet architecture of trust. Morning runs along the beach at Barceloneta, where Jasper splashed in the shallows while we held hands, toes buried in sand. Lazy Sundays at her flat, cooking fideuà from her abuela's recipe, laughter bubbling as we burned the noodles and salvaged them with extra saffron. Her vulnerability became our strength. She started a support group for queer vets, sharing her story with a courage that inspired me to pitch my murals to an international festival. Themes of mended bonds, earning a spotlight in the MACBA. Jasper, ever the barometer, approved wholeheartedly. His energy boundless, he'd drag us on adventures. Ferry rides to Siges for pride parades, where rainbow flags snapped in the breeze and we danced under confetti showers, her body swaying against mine to pulsing beats that drowned old doubts. "This is us," she'd whisper amid the throng, her breath warm on my neck, and I'd believe it, the crowd's joy a chorus to our private harmony. Yet conflict lingered, not as a specter but a teacher. Sophia resurfaced once, a letter delivered to the clinic, apologies wrapped in nostalgia, pleading for coffee as friends. Anastasia showed it to me immediately, her hand steady as she tore it to confetti, scattering it from the balcony like confetti at a wedding. "No more ghosts," she declared, and we sealed it with a kiss that tasted of finality. My own shadows emerged too. Calls from Seattle, an old flame emailing about what-ifs, testing the waters of my resolve. I deleted them unread, choosing instead the woman who'd seen my scars and stayed to trace them with care. The climax crested in late May, during the Corpus Christi processions. Streets carpeted in flower mosaics, the air thick with incense and anticipation. We'd volunteered at a stray adoption fair in Plaquerail, Anastasia in her element, matching pups with families while I manned the art booth, selling prints to fund the shelter. Jasper, the mascot, charmed donors with his golden charisma. As the afternoon waned, a storm brewed, literal thunderheads rolling in from the Pyrenees, mirroring the one building in my chest. Sophia appeared uninvited, elegant in a linen shift, her presence slicing through the crowd like a shadow. "Anastasia," she called, voice honeyed with false warmth. "I heard about the fair. Thought I'd contribute." She thrust a check forward, eyes flicking to me with calculated pity. Anastasia stiffened, but accepted it with a curt nod. "Thank you. Now if you'll excuse us." But Sophia lingered, her gaze sharpening on me. "You must be the new muse. Careful. Anastasia collects strays but she tires of the upkeep." The barb landed low, insidious, aimed at every insecurity I'd buried. Whispers rippled from nearby volunteers, heads turning. Heat flooded my face, rage coiling tight. "Get out," I said, voice low.